Scientists in Germany have taken a close look at a region hit especially hard by the coronavirus. The affected community is Gangelt. Initial results show that 15% of the population has tested positive.
We gave people a questionnaire, took a throat swab and used the PCR method to verify whether an infection was currently present. We also took a blood sample and used an antibody test to see if the person had already experienced an infection.
In the municipality of Gangelt, the scientists calculated a mortality rate of 0.37%. That's 5 times lower than what the US-based Johns Hopkins University projected for all of Germany. This may lead to a relaxing of restrictions in some areas of daily life. But experts warn special measures favoring older people should still be a priority.
The average age of death, also according to Robert Koch Institute data, is 80, so it is very important to protect the elderly.
Heinsberg's district chief says this area narrowly missed a catastrophe. Had the virus been detected just 2 weeks later, the situation would be far worse. In the meantime, the curve of the number of infections has begun to flatten.
Well, let's go back to Professor Schönrich. Professor, we have a study here which says that the virus was less lethal than initially expected. What do you make of this?
That is a very interesting point of this study, that the case fatality rate is about 0.4%. That is less than many experts have anticipated. But still, I mean, we have to think about that the virus is still spreading and will reach about 50% or 70% of the population. So there will be more cases and more death, even though the case fatality rate is very low. But that is the most interesting point.
That's the first time I've heard that figure. You reckon that, generally speaking, you're looking at 70% of us becoming infected with coronavirus at some stage?
That's what epidemiologists expect, 50 to 70%, and that at this point probably the virus stops to spread further because everybody is immune and the virus does not find any host anymore that is susceptible to the virus. These are the figures commonly accepted so far.
And again, just referring back to this study we just looked at, 15% of the population there in Gangelt having been in contact with some sort of infection. So that's quite low then, from what you've said.
Absolutely. That means that we are still at the beginning of the pandemic, and we will see many more cases in the future. And another question is whether we can compare these Landkreis, Heinsberg, so-called, with other regions in Germany. So at the beginning of the pandemic, the regions may have different percentages of people that have experienced infection with the virus. And during the pandemic, the numbers will more become similar to each other. So, but that point is not reached yet.
OK, I'm going to ask you to speculate now. Just because pressure on politicians is so great to try and release populations from lockdown, is it inevitable that we reach a point where the virus appears to have been beaten, we slowly release people from lockdown, and then we have another spike in infections? Is that just something we have to just accept?
We have to face that, yes, indeed, because the virus, even if it disappears for a while, it will reappear and will cause more infections. So we have to control the spread of the virus and to prevent the intensive care units from being overwhelmed by loads of people that are severely ill. And that is the whole aim of all these measurements. But at the end, we have to accept that probably, yes, 50 to 60% of the population will be infected.
So everything, therefore, the end goal then is a vaccine, or some sort of inoculation?
Sure, that is the most wanted issue. But unfortunately, probably only in 2021, we will have a vaccine. It takes time to test vaccines because we have to vaccinate also people that are very healthy. And the vaccines, therefore, has to be very safe, and that takes time to test. That is very important. So I think my feeling is that the vaccine comes too late.
All right. Well, that's very clear. Anyway, Professor, thank you so much for joining us. Professor Günther Schönrich from the Charité Medical Center.
You're welcome.